Okay then folks, so a quick one for you now regarding lines, and in particular the diameters rather than the breaking strain. I apologise for the towel, but I burnt my knees yesterday and it's proper sunny. We've sat on the sunniest blooming peg, but it was shady this morning. But anyway, back to the lines. Now, as an angling coach, I get this question asked all the time, you know, I was using sort of £6 line, £7 line, but I always want to get over how important it is understanding the diameters rather than the breaking strain. Basically because the fish can see your line, but they don't know what it breaks at. So it's understanding that concept. Basically, the bigger the number, so when we get this spool of 0.20, for example, Richard zooms in on that, the bigger this number is, the thicker the line. Now, let's take for sort of like this time of year, for example. Now, for all my summer fishing, these are the main lines that I'd use. Hook lengths as well, yeah, but that's, you know, let's not go into that. For main lines, these are the main lines I'll be using on typical commercials like this that have got F1s and carp in them. If it's more based around carp, I go for 0.20. If it's more based around F1s and sort of like your ids and stuff like that, then I go to 0.18. They have got the breaking strains underneath that you can see there, but as I say, it's understanding that diameter. Now, the other thing as well that I'll throw it in, but I'm not going to go in massively into detail about it, is the difference between a high-tech pole rig line and then you've got your reel line. Now, your reel line will be a thicker diameter, but a weaker breaking strain. So it's very, very important when you're fishing on the pole rigs that you're using this high-tech monofilament rather than the reel line. I hope I've explained myself. But basically, so these are the two diameters that I'd use. Now, coming on to hook lengths, now this is the important bit. Main line, I'm not going to say it's irrelevant because I don't really want to go much other than 0.20. But basically, the fish is only seeing that little tiny bit. So this is where the diameter really comes into play and it's really important. So for example, I'm going to take these two. So we've got a 0.16 and a 0.14. Now, the other reason as well that to using hook lengths is if you do get snapped or you get caught in a snag or anything like that, the only thing that's going to break, as long as your main line is thicker than your hook length, is your hook length. So you just put a new hook length on. You never ever want to be fishing straight through, folks. We've talked about this loads and loads of times because rig go bye fishing straight through, so don't do that. So as a rule, so 0.16 would be what I'd be using in conjunction with like 0.18 or 0.20 main line, for more so for sort of carp. Dropping down to a 0.14, obviously if it's water's a little bit clearer maybe, you know, experience a little bit colder weather, the fish aren't having it as much and you just need to drop down a little bit, more so for sort of F1s and I'd. But also, you know, this time of year, still lots of silvers to be caught, that mid part of the mat, so you're seshing to something when the carps aren't having it. What's going on there, little ducks? When the carps aren't having it, so that's when I might even want to drop down to like a 0.12 diameter, which is about as heavy as I would go through all my winter fishing. But for like this time of year, in the summer, it definitely is as light as I go. I wouldn't want to go any lighter than a 0.12, even if I was just purely targeting silvers. So that's the diameters. Now, obviously, winter time is different again. I'll briefly touch upon it. All my main lines in the winter is done on a 0.16. Don't make a blind bit of difference going, I wouldn't want to go any heavier, but it don't make a blind bit of difference if you wanted to go lighter. But for me, to stick to a 0.16, it avoids tangles, it's nice and robust, but then you'd be coming down diameters on your hook length. So you might want to be using a 0.9 or a 0.10 or even a 0.8. I ain't got a 0.8 because I don't use it this time of year, but certainly 0.9s and 0.10s. Me personally, folks, I've never found the need to go any less than like a 0.10 in the winter. You know, all you've got to consider is obviously the clarity of the water, which obviously on venues like this, you know, you can get away with like really thick line in the summer. But just bear it in mind about the diameters. Main line, stick to 0.20, 0.18 in the summer. Winter, stick to 0.16, and then you can just adjust your hook lengths accordingly. Give it a try, folks. Get used to the numbers rather than the breaking strain and you will not go wrong.
Ciao. Right, you lads, very, very sorry to interrupt your video watching.
How dare you?
Quickly, if you haven't already noticed, we have managed to write a book, haven't we?
Yes, we have,
Which
Jamie.
is full of all our very bestest methods and features or whatever else we do on this wonderful subject of fishing. So if you haven't had a look already, go and have a look at winningways.shop and buy one for yourself.